Warren, how are you?
Doing great.
You looking forward to a new year,
I
2025?
mean, people ask me that all the time. It's always a mistake because if you ask me that question, I'm actually going to give you a real answer. It's some kind of personality quirk, and I got to tell you, I'm pumped for 2025.
Yeah, me too.
I'm super excited for 2025. It may not seem like it as we're wearing our comfy sweaters here on a Friday afternoon, but we're still working all the way up until that date. So we're recording this at the end of December,
Yeah.
but I'm already in 2025 mode, thinking about all the positive things that are going to happen.
Yeah, I was
So maybe
actually,
I'm being an optimist.
yeah, maybe you are. And actually, speaking on that, I was listening to a podcast. I thought we would reference. I think it makes a lot of sense and ties in with what we wrote in the newsletter.
Yep.
Morgan Housel, a great financial author. We've included some of his works in our newsletter we share with you. I've referenced his book many times. We have a shared belief system in terms of our philosophy around financial planning, wealth management, et cetera. And his philosophy really matches well and lines up with ours. And sometimes, yeah, I think he says it. You can tell why he's so popular and why he's so successful. He sometimes says it in a way that couldn't be better said, and I couldn't do a better job of it.
Yeah, myself. Unique to him that we're just kind of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, so he's great. I was listening to a podcast of his recently, and it was on the subject matter of optimism versus pessimism. And I think right now, maybe we just went through an election. It's the beginning of a new year. There is, I think when you consume news all the time, anytime you're watching TV or you're on your device or you're reading a newspaper, I know a lot of us don't do that anymore, which I'm dating myself. I like doing that, but I don't get to as much as I'd like. But when you're consuming information, a lot of it is pessimistic. A lot of it is doom and gloom. A lot of it is a pessimistic viewpoint.
Sure. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
And that's how they get you coming back the next day or the next moment.
That's right. That's right. You get the click, you get the engagement. And he went into kind of why that is. And so I figured we'd talk a little bit about that and then tie it into the newsletter piece. So the pessimistic viewpoint, it's a sexy viewpoint. It makes you sound smart. It makes you sound you're really tuned in.
And I think there's a basis in that in all of our DNA, because if we imagine back in time, whenever that was, the person or the group that had the most awareness of adversity was the one that survived the longest.
Yeah.
So I think it's a natural, that's what I want to make sure. We're not pointing any fingers. We're saying this is a natural thing to do, but we also want to make sure that it can sometimes hinder movement forward in a lot of different areas of your life. So what can we do to kind of offset that or balance it out?
And so if you're focusing or hyper focusing or sensitive to those pessimistic views, and you're just taking that in and saying, oh, wow, this sounds like something bad is going to happen. I need it. Maybe there's a call to action, like you got to sell your stocks. You got to change this position. You have to do X, Y, or Z to move around this impending something that might be looming. Right. So if you focus too much on that, it's going to really derail the progress that you're going to make inevitably over time. And he contrasts that with optimism in that, optimism isn't the opposite of pessimism.
Right.
And
it's not a blinding belief that tomorrow is going to be a sunny day.
It's not that. It's not just saying, hey, the market has went up for 2 years in a row.
It's going to keep going.
It's just going to keep going. It's great. Nothing to worry about. No bumps in the road. That's not what optimism is. It's really just understanding that if you're doing things today that you should be doing, financially speaking, and if you expand your time horizon over time, even though you're going to have adversity, you're going to have challenges along the way, you're going to be in a much better position in 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road by doing the right things today. And the belief that in spite of the adversity that you're going to go through, you're going to be much better off implementing a plan that accounts for the volatility you're going to have. When we're building a plan, when we're putting together a portfolio, the portfolio is going to endure those bad times that will inevitably come.
Yeah, no, and some of you have only been with us for a short period of time. Some of you have been with us for a longer period of time. And it's always easier if you've been through those trials and tribulations with us and you've seen that dollar that you put in the account 15 years ago grow to much larger dollar amount over that time frame. Now that's personal. You made that your own. But if you've only been with us for the last 2 years and it's a lot harder to understand that, hey, when the market does go down, and it does, that we've already kind of planned for that into the portfolio. That's why we always show you all the back testing over time that the portfolio did. So we have that understanding, and we're much more dynamic and tactical in those types of moments and in all moments to make sure that those things on a shorter term basis for as much as you can prepare for them are prepared. But on a longer term basis, that's where the real heavy lifting goes on our end, but also on your end. So I kind of communicated it, hopefully I did, in the newsletter that Nathan and I are just kind of guides on your journey, wherever that journey takes you. You've put all the work in, you've accumulated the assets, and now we're stewards for those assets. And just like if I was a steward or an airline pilot, we're going along that journey. We want to make sure to tell you, hey, there could be some turbulence up ahead. And maybe we fasten our safety belts. Maybe we get out of the aisles. It doesn't mean we're not going to get to where we're going.
Yeah. And I always like when they actually announce that, as opposed to having the turbulence and not saying anything or addressing, hey, there's going to be some turbulence ahead. And there is. Now, we're not saying that in a certain particular time there is going to be turbulence. We're saying there's always turbulence, and it's going to reoccur.
Yeah.
So just to be prepared for those things.
Yeah.
I interrupted your train of thought.
No, I think that's perfect. You always add to it more than take away from it. But and we kind of also wrote that in the newsletter. And I don't know how many of you were around in the 80s. I was, great times. But the reason I kind of put that in there is we wanted to have a long-term picture of the market that we could write in the newsletter that says, hey, the market performance from this time to this time was tremendous. It was, but that doesn't mean it was on a consistent scale.
Yeah, if you zoomed in, you could see all of the circumstances multiple times, probably in a given year.
That you saw double-digit drops.
Yeah, and there would be reasons to quote unquote sell or have a pessimistic view. But when you zoom out and you create a longer runway, a longer time frame to accomplish those goals, you can see that progress. I think another thing he points out is, and I think this is kind of what you're alluding to as well, is that pessimism and negative things happen like that. So the market drops,
Sure, you have the flash crash,
or you have a big correction, you're feeling it, it's happening right now. The progress that you make in a portfolio over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it doesn't happen all at once. So you're going to have to go back when you're reviewing your portfolio with Lauren, when you're doing your financial planning updates, and he's saying, hey, well, here's what we did last year, but really more importantly, here's your long run average returns that you've experienced versus the plan. And here's how you've possibly, probably exceeded those returns. And then you can really kind of compare something that's more meaningful.
And I think it's the same thing. So those quick downturns in the market, those horrific events that happen like September 11th or things like that, they feel so bad at the time. It's a magnified feeling because it happened all at once. Versus if the portfolio is consistently hitting its goals over time, within a bandwidth, that doesn't have the same feeling. It's not as impactful because you're not experiencing it in a moment.
Yep.
So I know you put something great in a link in the newsletter, and I know sometimes people don't get to click all the links, but Nathan and I spend a lot of time, Nathan more than me, curating those links. And the last one really hit me hard, that the past isn't as rosy as it may have seemed. The present, I think, is hard to live in the moment, and the future is a lot brighter than you think it's going to be. So I think if you operate kind of in those parameters, where if you had a double-digit return last year or the year before, you're probably forgetting that there were lots of ups and downs, lots of crazy times in the last 2 years, lots of crazy times in the last 5 years that felt horrific as we were going through them. And now you're looking back and saying, wow, the market did so well over those last 5 years.
And I'm so glad I didn't listen to maybe the pessimistic views in 2023 and 2024 coming out of 2022, which wasn't a good time. You could have listened to people say, hey, got to get out of the market, or got to lower your exposure to stocks, or, there's a big recession coming, and those things didn't happen.
Correct.
So it's a credit to you to, you've implemented a plan with us,
and then you stuck to,
and you're sticking to
it. That's the hardest thing to do, because I can tell you, if somebody gives me a diet and exercise plan, I'm like, yeah, I'm 100% on board, right? As January's coming up, you're going to hear me. I'm 100% on board. And
it's a New Year's resolution.
It's New Year's resolution. It's the same one every year. I never have to think about it. But maintaining that consistency over time is truly the secret to success. And as much as we want people to listen to what we tell them to, it doesn't happen unless that person, like Nathan said, has a shared belief system in what we're doing for them and what they're doing for themselves.
Yeah, and we want to communicate our belief system and our philosophy around these things as often as we can, and reinforce, especially as Lauren alluded to, not all of you have worked with us for 20 years. Some of you have. but there might be someone who's worked with us for 3 years or 2.5 years, and they've maybe only seen the market that we've just experienced and thinking, well, this is just how it is, and there's not much volatility and a price to pay, which we would consider volatility, the price that you pay to get those long run returns. And there hasn't been that much of it. There will be. That is abnormal not to have a volatile moment in a year or many volatile moments in a year. So whether it comes in January, whether it comes in the summer, whether it comes, maybe you have another year just like we had this year, eventually you'll have volatility. And we want to be talking to you about that
way ahead of time.
Yeah, way ahead of time.
And communicate that when those things happen, we're going to do the same thing that we wrote in the newsletter. We're going to contact you. We're going to say, number one, stick to the plan. Number two, if you have the financial wherewithal, these are the moments in time that don't happen as much. So the market downturns, they're not as often and they don't last as long as the market upswings. So those are the times where we can add alpha and you can add alpha. So those are the times that you can dramatically change your position for the better.
Right.
And we're going to help encourage that along as much as we can.
Yeah, hard to do that in the moment too.
Never feels good.
Better to realize and accept that there'll be those moments, and then also understand that, hey, those are opportunities as well. Those are opportunities to achieve a little bit more, to improve your probability of long-term success in those moments. And it's easier to understand that in today's environment than it would be if you were in the middle of a 20% drawdown.
Yeah. So you hear this a lot from us. I apologize, but taglines are taglines because we use them all the time. If someone's looking to maximize their life and maximize their legacy, these are the components of doing that. What we're communicating today, what we're communicating in the newsletters time and time again, is these are opportunities that we see for you to maximize your life, right? Enhance your position so that you can do the things that you really want to do. So we all have to pay our mortgage. We all have to do things like that. I don't love doing those things, but I know that those can make a dramatic impact on my life and my family's life. And I know that if you're looking to leave a legacy, having that capability is enhanced really in moments of adversity.
Right. And so we've talked a lot about this. Maybe we've talked too much.
We beat the horse. I don't know if it's not dead yet. I think we've done the best job we can trying to get it there.
Yeah. So eventually there'll be volatile moments. And we know that it's a time also when you're in the new year to look back and reflect on, hey, these were great 12 months, a great 24-month period. And who's to say that doesn't continue in the same fashion? But eventually you'll have a moment where you'll have a volatility in your portfolio. We want you to understand that the planning that we do, the advice we give, is already accounting for that. We know that, we accept that. We're going to help guide you through that period, of course, when it comes, and do whatever we can to mitigate risks. But we're also having the portfolio that's going to endure that already, and knowing that, hey, you're going to have experience a time or two where you're going to be upset about the direction of the market.
And I just want to say, I mean, I know everybody's smart that's listening, and I'm not as smart as everybody probably on the call, but I think one of the reasons we're talking about that is we may have had conversations, and it may not have been with you. It could have been with people in our circle that said, hey, the market did whatever it did, right? 20, 22, 23. I don't know when you're watching this. Yeah. And I only did 19.
Yeah. Why didn't I get 26?
And we don't know everyone's circumstance that we're talking to out in the world, but if the plan dictates that you have to get 7 to meet your goal, it's great to get 19. It'd be great to get 22, but it's not necessarily reasonable to do that. And then we don't hear those conversations on the other end. So if the market's down 12, we never hear anybody say, hey, I was only down 11 and I'm killing it. So
well, I like your analogy of driving a school. Please.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the best analogy because
it's good.
I'm going to get reported, obviously, but I drive my kids to school, and let's say the average speed's 35 miles an hour, and it takes me 10 minutes to get there.
Right.
Well, there's some days I'm running behind and I need to get there sooner than 10 minutes. Let me tell you what I don't do is I don't drive double the speed limit to get them there. Well, why not? I'm going to get them there faster.
Right. Your objective would be to get
my objective there is to maximize, right, the performance.
Right.
But I'm doing that sacrificing a lot of things, right? So is that the responsible way to get them there? Is that the prudent way to get them there? Is that the safe way to get them there? Is it necessary to do that? Is the risk worth what I'm trying to achieve?
And are you even going to make it there? I mean, that sounds pretty risky. I mean, you're probably not going to make it.
I didn't want to bring that up.
It's actually going to
thanks for making me think about
your
that
probability of
now I'm back to pessimism. But no, so again, I think we exaggerate to make a point, but we want to make sure we're doing it on both sides. So Nathan talks about pessimism. We don't want to be so pessimistic that we're afraid to invest for our future or our family's future. And we also don't want to be so pessimistic that we take away from the returns that we could have if we stuck to the plan.
Right.
But we also don't want to be so overly optimistic that we think we're going to double the return of the market every year forever.
Right.
So hopefully we've explained this and over-explained it and explained it one more time.
No, I think it was good.
We're definitely excited for the future, but we also know that cloudy days happens. It happens a lot more here in Pittsburgh than other places. That's not great. But we know that what happens after the darkest day is the brightest day is close by. So we always want to say, thank you again, letting us be a part of your journey. It's a big responsibility. We take it very, very seriously.
Right.
So any questions or concerns, I feel like sometimes people think we don't want to hear those. We want to hear them.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. When we say that, we actually mean it.
We
So
mean it.
reach out. If you want to schedule a time to get together and you feel like there's something that we brought up that you said, hey, that's pertinent, or there's someone that you know who may benefit from hearing our thoughts on this.
That's correct. January is the
connect.
time for change.
Right.
And that change can be, hey, I'm definitely going to contact Lauren and Nathan more. Or it could be somebody that you know says, hey, I'm not getting webinars and feedback from my current advisor. Do you know anybody that could help? We'd feel that it'd be a tremendous privilege if you allowed us to do that for your friends and family. So thanks again. I'll say Happy New Year because you're going to get it here in
Happy
January.
25.
And we're looking for great days ahead.
Great days ahead indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was like the